In Parliament yesterday, it was revealed that some desperate communities are missing out on million-dollar funding by the barest of margins, despite promises of assistance during the federal election campaign. So to discuss why that is, we're joined by Nine's political editor Chris Yorman in Canberra and Campaign Edge creative director Dee Madigan in Brisbane. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Chris, you reported on this story last night. Moira Shire in regional Victoria missed out on a $1 million grant because of just a 0.1% shortfall in workers with farming-related jobs. It equates to just a handful of people, doesn't it? This is bureaucracy gone mad, surely.
Oh, that's right. The Department of Infrastructure, Regional Services, Cities, it's got lots of titles yesterday up before the Senate Estimates Committee, and we heard this testimony which told us that about 5 to 10 jobs stood between Moira Shire getting its drought funding and not getting its drought funding, and the computer said no. It didn't meet the departmental guideline, came in at 16.9% of agricultural jobs in the Shire, and it was 17% that was the cut-off. Now, we spoke to the mayor of that particular shire who just couldn't believe it. Don't forget also in Victoria we've seen the circumstance where one shire got $1 million worth of funding after having quite healthy rainfall. And that was Moyne Shire. So the mayor of Moira Shire thought perhaps they just got the names wrong and that they deserve the money. But I think it's an example of how difficult this drought funding is going to be the longer this drought goes, and it will be an increasing problem for the federal government. And I have to say too, Murray Watt, the Labor Senator yesterday, did a very good job. It was a great use of budget estimates. Yeah,
and we talked about Moyne Shire just a couple of weeks ago when that mayor came out and rejected the $1 million grant. He said that they had had rain, that the paddocks were lush, and yet they were deemed eligible for the funding. This assessment process, Dee, appears to be very flawed.
Look, it's completely flawed because we know that 14 councils who are getting the funding didn't pass the eligibility criteria at all. They were just promised it during the election in what's got to be just ultimately pork barrelling. But I think, you know, the craziest thing here is David Littleproud saying with surprise, droughts are spreading like cancer, as if this is something new when scientists have been saying this for years, and we're looking at short-term drought funding and nothing about long-term climate change, and we know the link is there, which is just madness.
Yeah, and these funding stuff-ups have got to be such a kick in the guts to those communities who are already suffering. Let's talk education, and it's a case of back to basics for schools in New South Wales, with the school curriculum to undergo its biggest overhaul in 30 years. The plan is to declutter and slash subjects by 20% and refocus on maths, English and science. Dee, what are your thoughts? Will a back to basics approach work in this day and age?
Yeah, look, I don't like the back to basics because this idea that, you know, rote learning, which is what used to happen, is a good thing, is simply not. And as an ex-teacher, I can tell you that hand on heart. But there is no doubt that students, there is so much crammed into the curriculum that students aren't learning how to think critically. And that's the important thing. It's not actually the knowledge you're learning, it's learning how to think. And we're getting students out there with a smattering of knowledge about everything, but no idea how to really interrogate subjects. And that's the thing that'll keep you employed no matter how the world changes.
Yeah, and that's got to be problematic for teachers too, trying to get across such a huge raft of subjects.
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah. Chris, we talked last week about the anxiety attached to the ATAR and the choosing of subjects that basically just get them into uni rather than subjects they like. What are your thoughts about the system?
Well, my first thought is that every time there's a problem in society nowadays, someone thinks that we should solve it by putting a new program into the education system, and we really have to stop doing that. Almost every time someone turns up in this place, in Parliament House in Canberra, and they talk about some problem that they've got, they usually say there should be an education program about this. Well, there shouldn't. I think children should learn to read and write and add up, and the teachers in New South Wales, I think, will be delighted by the fact that their curriculum is going to be decluttered. From what I understand from teachers in New South Wales, they're going to welcome this exercise. There'll also be a focus on a bit more vocational education, not just for those students who are heading in that direction, but also for those going into university. So this has been a year-long process. It's been led by Mark Scott, who I know very well. He runs the Education Department in New South Wales, and I think that Education Department is in pretty good hands with him, and I think that teachers will welcome this.
All righty. Chris, Dee, we are out of time, sadly, but thank you very much for your thoughts and insight this morning. See you soon.